cidade de tradições e beleza natural.
A place of traditions and natural beauties. Today is the visiting site of this sea railway line, tribes, flamingos, and for these three syllables only, Lobito. Now it's an industrial city, Lobito, a place of beauty, long poem of Lobito, and this city of three syllables, only Lobito, Benguela, Excellency, Excellency, Administrator, Minister of Mineral Resources, Petroleum and Gas, Excellency, Secretary of State, Excellency, Secretary of State of Economy, distinguished representatives of the diplomatic corps headed or based in Angola, distinguished chairman of the board of directors of IPEX, distinguished member of the board of directors of the APG, distinguished companies, distinguished investors, ladies and gentlemen, Lobito is with this poet, Lobitanga, Lobitingo, Almeida Angola, dated in 1974, the today Nari city that is warmly welcoming us. That with a great satisfaction, we would like to welcome you all. We'd like to thank you for the presence of each and every one that is joining us face to face and virtually from Lobito, Benguela, or Angola, and from Angola to worldwide. Welcome to the public tender event for the Lobito Refinery. And we'd like to sincerely apologize for our delay. Good morning to you all, and please stand up for the national anthem.
Muito obrigada.
Thank you. We will now, before we move to start, before we kick off with the start, we kick off with the activity. Let us observe the 1 minute safety rule.
Bom dia a todos.
Good morning, everyone. We are at the building of the Municipal Administration of Lobito, where the exit room is at the left side. We have a restroom for ladies and gents on your left side. We have the enema for health issues, which is placed on the first floor. Now, in order to ensure that we are safe in this room, if something happens in this room, we have our exit emergency room that duly identified. We'll then have to take the stairs until the back side of the building where we have our meeting place or the point of meeting. Thank you. Thank you, Vitorino Shemba, who has just given us a description of the safety aspects at this facility. We'll now move on to the official opening of this official event of the public tender for the Lobito Refinery, whose opening speech will be delivered by His Excellency, the Provincial Governor of Benguela, Luis Nunes, which I invite to take the floor. Excellency, Minister of Mineral Resources, Petroleum and Gas, Excellency, Administrator, Sonangol Administrator, Acting CEO, Secretary of State, to the Vice Governors, distinguished representatives of the Diplomatic Corps represented in Angola, distinguished members of the Angolan government, distinguished members of the Board of Directors of Sonangol, distinguished members of the Regulatory Institute of Oil Derivatives, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Allow me from the outset to welcome you all, particularly the Minister of Petroleum, Mineral Resources, Petroleum and Gas, and in his delegation, for welcome you in our beautiful province, particularly in the Flamingo City, for this important act of the public tender for the investment on the Lobito Refinery. This is also extended to the different participants following us in the digital platforms that, due to the negative effects of COVID pandemic, couldn't be here face to face. For this reason, we'd like to express our great satisfaction and honor for organizing these acts that will surely relaunch the expectations of giving a step forward towards the important economic growth process so as to ensure the sustainable development of our country. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, the implementation of a major refinery in our province, more specifically in the Flamingo City, also known as the visiting site of our country, will be of great importance, since it will bring about not only the increase of business in our province, but it will essentially bring about and give more employment for our population, particularly for the youth, who will surely be benefit in this process of implementation of this refinery. And I'd like to take this opportunity to make an appeal and request all the investors who are likely to win this tender to prioritize the local labor, which will ensure and improve the living conditions of our population. Our province has a great economic potential because it has a balance that will drive the industry, the trade, transport, and that is why this project will be catalyzing not only for the progress of our province, but also of our region, since it will immediately enable the oil derivatives to be expanded throughout the region, and which will ensure an uninterrupted supply of oil derivatives to the different segments of our economy. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the current event represents the first step towards materializing this important project, and that is why, as direct beneficiaries, our province is joyful for this project, and we express to Sonangol and its partners many success in implementing this endeavor, which will add value in the important task towards the development of our country. Thank you. Thank you to the Excellency the Governor, Excellency the Provincial Governor of Benguela, who has officially opened this event of the public tender for the investment of the Lobito Refinery. Since we are dealing with a petrochemical activity related to the oil sector, I will now invite His Excellency, the Minister of Mineral Resources, Petroleum and Gas, as the leader of this sector, to also say some welcoming remarks. Good morning to everyone. And once again, I would like to apologize for the delay. Excellency, Provincial Governor of Benguela, Excellency, Municipal Administrator of Lobito, Excellency, Vice Governors of the Benguela Province, to the Excellency Secretary of State, distinguished representatives of the diplomatic missions in Angola, esteemed invited guests, Excellency, representative of the Sonangol Chairman of Board of Directors, ladies and gentlemen. At the beginning of this term, His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Angola, João Manuel Gonçalves Lourenço, had determined as a priority that all efforts be made to reduce the imports of oil derivatives, as well as to increase the storage capacity of such oil derivatives, and also to increase jobs in our country. Having said so, we have put in place a strategy so as to fulfill these such tasks. The key axis, according to the National Development Plan 2018-2022, stated that during this term, we were supposed to start with at least with the construction of a refinery, we were even bold, or bold than more than that, and we had increased other key access to these objective. Having said so, we decided by building or constructing a refinery in Cabinda with a 60,000 barrel capacity in Cabinda. And this project is currently being implemented, which has been divided in two phases. The first, which we believe that will be completed by the first semester of next year, which will produce 30,000 barrels per day. And we also decided to build a 100,000 capacity refinery in Soyo. For this reason, an international public bid was launched, and which has already been approved, and we are currently negotiating with this consortium. We have also decided to increase the gasoline production capacity at Luanda Refinery, whose process is currently underway, and we believe that we're about to complete it during the first term of next year, the first quarter of next year. Finally, we decided to reevaluate the construction project of the Lobito Refinery in terms of its capex and technology, and today we are here to complete the whole preparatory process of the strategy that we believe that will be of great interest of our country and our people. Having said so, it's with the greatest satisfaction and sense of commitment with the nation that we are present before this August Assembly to launch the international public tender for the investment for the Lobito Refinery. Given the current national situation, in which 80% of the fuel consumed in our country is imported, the Angolan state, in its strategy in order to change such a situation, reflected in the National Development Plan 2018-2022, has directed efforts in order to strengthen the transformation of crude oil, where the Lobito Refinery is also integrated as a key initiative to fulfill the target towards the reduction or the eradication of our external reliance on refined oil products from overseas. This program also thinks about building a refinery of a processing capacity of up to 200,000 barrels per day, and which will have a huge, significant impact on the national economy and our populations, given the risks on the high prices of oil prices, driven by the foreign exchange risks. The Lobito Refinery will have a special significance to the country, given its relevance for the so-called economic independence. This project reveals a clear intention of the Angolan state to ensure the self-sufficiency in terms of refined products and valuing our raw material, a fundamental raw material, which is crude oil, for domestic consumption, and also to meet the fuel demands of our population, also for the exports. The economy in the transformation and mineral and import and exports, which is one of the key sectors of the commerce, has a guarantee for the stability of its activities so as to increase the productivity and economic efficiency. We are contemplating a considerable absorption of local labor by generating 8,000 direct and indirect jobs in the construction and additional 4,000 jobs during the processing phase, contributing in such way by reducing unemployment in our country. Excellencies, to have a participation in the capital of such refinery, as well as in its construction, is a challenge that will be worthwhile, given the success possibilities or the chances of success. Despite the pandemic, which is raging all over the world, our economy is pretty much focused on consumption. And that is a characteristics to be taken into considerations in the forecast and the success stories of the business people interested. The Angolan government, so as to, in order to favor the implementation of such projects, has created a legal and institutional framework and stable and attractive legal framework that will safeguard the economic visibility of such investments. Sonangol and its future partners coming out of this tender today, that is being launched today, will guarantee all the necessary support and attention given the strategic importance of such project, by which a clear and communication should be ensured so as to make this process more expeditious and then facilitate the implementation, one of the socio-economic objectives, which is one of the pillars for the revitalization and stabilization and macroeconomic stabilization of our country. We have now launched, we have now proceeded with the international public tender for the Lobito Refinery. Thank you for your attention.
Muito obrigada, Sr. Ministro.
Thank you, Excellency, Minister, for these welcoming remarks. I will now invite the governor of the minister and also the Minister of Mineral Resources, Petroleum and Gas, and the municipal administrator, the representative of the Sonangol CEO to take your seats and pay attention to the presentation. As we went through this beautiful and enchanting city, I've just discovered that Lobito comes from a vocabulary, Olopito, which means passage. So I see many of us, we are in Lobito, in passing by, but the refinery, Lobito Refinery, has come to stay. It's come to stay to produce and transform. Your attention for the Lobito Refinery, who's the coordinator of this project.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much. Once again, welcome to Lobito. I believe in presentation of 2 hours. Due to long time that we have been sitting, it will be very exhausting. His Excellency Minister has presented, and each presentation was really very productive, and it made my job very easy. As His Excellency Minister said, we are here to present information on Lobito Refinery project in a brief way, not only as well as of the public international bid of the investment to Lobito Refinery investment. So very briefly, let's give further details to our visitors, those that do not have our geographic data of our country. Just to mention simply that Angola has a population estimated on over 30 million people. We do have data from the National Statistics Institute. It will pose an annual increase of 3%. It was also mentioned by His Excellency Minister, the National Development Plan 2018-2022, which comprised many strategies and the mechanism to improve the economic context of our country with different initiatives. We have program of reform as well, of diversifying the economy, of building new infrastructures to support this increase of productions. We have also investments on the sectors of industry and the manufacturing. All these to reduce the dependence of GDP as well to the crude, but put this dependency into the other sectors of manufacturing, which also present an opportunity on what is investment on the sector of refinery, because when we increase our productions on the transformation, many other industry will really increase our anxiety and demand of our needs. Continues on the reform that have been implemented to improve the business environment in our country. We have also a different program, the program of macroeconomic stabilizations with PEM, the PIM, which is the project of the maintenance of the municipalities. We have the laws anti-corruptions. We have also the program of privatization. So all these aim to alleviate the state financing in terms of investment. Looking a little bit on the sectors of oil and gas, starting with some statistics on the upstream area, which is production. To mention that Angola so far has productions estimated in 1.1 million barrels per day. These productions, as His Excellency Minister said, is exported overseas. In this context of products that we export, we like to highlight in terms of the projections of products, that type of crude. We are living from heavy crude to light and medium crude. For us is a product with a high value, and as a product of refinery bring more added value and what we intend to produce. It was also mentioned, I will briefly mention regarding to the project of the sector which the state is foreseeing in terms of a refinery. As we have been saying, we have in action the Luanda refinery, which has the capacity of 65 million barrels per day. It really under upgrading in order to produce the gasoline as well to improve its quality. We have also the Topping in Cabinda, which is a refinery which belongs to the Chevron, which has a capacity of refining 15 million barrels per day. As it was mentioned, we are now introducing, and which is in the phase of implementation or implementation phase, which will have around 2022 will be concluded the first phase with the productions of a 30 million barrels, and then we'll really 30,000 barrels per day, which will be in second phase 60,000 barrels per day. So we have also those one that has won the international bid, public bid in Soyo, which has the capacity to produce until 100,000 barrels per day. And finally, we have the project of Lobito Refinary, which we foresee to have the production capacity until 200,000 barrels per day. In terms of storage capacity, Sonangol and Pumango, the two big oil infrastructure that we have. We have so far the capacity of storage 900, 300 is on FPSO, is a fact that we are trying to revert when we'll have implemented the ocean, Bardodan the ocean terminal. We will improve 200, then we will have 1 million cubic meters of storage capacity. So far we have in a floating storage infrastructures. In general, in terms of providing products, data released before COVID pandemic in 2019, we have supplied 4.4 million cubic of products. In terms of the refineries of Rwanda, we have been supplying to the market almost 1.5 million of refined products. We are talking about gasoline, diesel. So we have mentioned that we have 80% of our internal consumption is imported. In terms of percentage of products, so today the projection that we have been presenting until 2025, so the expectation is to have a need of refined products in the order of 25, and we have a trend to increase throughout the years, and going to 9% until 2030, and 2.5 2030 2040. So we have the need, and this need has the trend to increase, and local market for refined products. However, it were conducted feasibility studies by McKinsey company in 2020. So it were mentioned that even for African region, the trend is to have the increase on the need of refined products in general. So giving a comfort in investment of this magnitude, we have the need of internal products, but we also need in general in African region. So talking a little bit about the project of Lobito Refinery. So the project of Lobito Refinery has its vision to boost of a new industrial harbor in region with the development of petrochemical and transformation industry to increase the capacity of refining for the country, and building of a new refinery with capacity to process 200,000 barrels per day through private investment. As a reference, and it is also important when we are looking to the perspective of the investment, it is also important to know what we have around our investment, in direct or indirect way to give value to our investment. So in this case, Lobito Refinery, we have various opportunities of investment. We have mentioned some of them. Close to the refinery, we have the mining terminal, where recently built. We have the logistic terminal of Senegal, which conduct all products through the inside of the country. We also have Lobito Railway, Luanda Railway, which is the delivering of the products. We have also Katumbela Airport will be really very big client, Katumbela International Airport. It is one big airport out of Luanda, which will be great, but is a potential client for an investment of these magnitudes. As any other refinery needs a high quantity of water, we have the big river, Catumbela River, which will supply this natural resource, which is very, very appreciated for this kind of business. As it was mentioned, Lobito refinery project were conceived long time ago, but it has been delayed through the socio-economic situation of the country. But in 2018 was the right time to project, but through this year has been suffering many interventions on the engineering studies, feasibility studies, but in the time of 2018 we started to make physical interventions of the project to improve. We have conducted the mining or clearing, we have dredged Lobito Bay, we have installed civil projects and infrastructure which bring added value of the land. 2016, through the socio-economic situation of the country, we were forced to stop, but the project started to redefine the way how it should be implemented. As mentioned it before, Lobito Refinery project has suffered. So that means, to be more specific, the land of Lobito Refinery project has received very improving projects, which are necessary for any kind of this investment being implemented, and it will reduce the implementation of this project. So one of these projects, we have built many roads. One of them, the road that derivate, the road that connect Lobito through north area and should cut the Lobito refinery in its way. Now we have built another way that goes around the refinery, and this project were headed over to Lobito administration for public tender. We determined and opened a way for the supplying water project close to the refinery. We have built a big tanks. We found a way to protect the 24 kilometers of road where we should reinstall the pipeline as well as the water capturing for refinery project. We have also prepared the decks of the refineries, means that the bases will be installed, the plants, the refinery units. So it's now 100% concluded. We are talking about in a way of working in the excavating of land planning of 12 meters of high, so the base that will be used to install the plant. So the tank area is around 11% to conclude, but in the same way we are now preparing the foundations to the bases to install the foundation in order to install the tanks. These are the works so far concluded. With the exceptions of any investor in its plan of implementing the refineries will reduce the time that will start implementing. Will not lose more time in implementing the bases in order to install the different unities of the plant. So we also built many roads that will connect different sections of the refinery. One of them is the road for heavy cargo. Is a specific road which connect the maritime terminal from Lobito refinery. So this road will be used to transport very heavy loaded equipment, has maximum height to transport this specific equipment from the terminal to refinery for the future Lobito refinery. So in this connection between Lobito area with the maritime terminal, we won't build the its own maritime terminal for Lobito Refinery will be used to um, use the oil product, but will also be used to offloading all the equipment to be installed in the refinery. So we need specific items to make this unloaded and bring all the roads should have enough capacity to support the cargoes, the loads. That's why we will be building a specific port. Will include a roll-on and roll-off area where we will unload cargo without crane. So this area is prepared. It is 100% concluded. So today you can offload the cargoes and go roll on, roll off. So we also have equipment that will make shipping. So the next phase, we will install specific equipment in order to deliver all products. As I mentioned before, so far we have dredged Lobito Bay. So far we have realized that the maximum deep, the time that we were building the maritime terminal, were not enough to receive all shipping, all ships. So we have dredged some additional meters that you have a minimum deep of 15 depth. So all these projects are concluded so far. Again, for great benefits for any investors that would like to have. So all these things are implemented, will really reduce the time and the cost. So will also reduce the time of implementing because of the civil works should really spend more 2 years. As you can see, these are the new infrastructures. So far, we are 100% concluded. Now we have the issue of weeds of vegetations grown on the area because we have stopped it since 2016 until now. Just to figure out the vision of implementation Lobito Refinery project, due to the consideration of the investor, what is envisaged for Lobito Refinery, we have the system of capture of water through BOPU, through pipeline, 28 kilometers. It is storage in open space, pools, and then we'll store the non-treated water. It is 20 meters up on the basis that will be installed the plants. So we use gravity to pump water from these tanks to the area of the refinery. So we are now 100% installed. So we just installed the concrete pillars. So far we have 11% concluded. We have so far concluded, it is so far ready to receive a stand. We have also area reserved for public utilities like energies and water will be installed, the supplying system for energy and water. We also have the administrative area, such as office buildings. And so the implemented strategies allow where the buildings, offices will be implemented. We have a maritime terminal, as I said, will really deliver all the products where the crude is imported to refineries and the product will be exported to different tankers or ships. So we have the connections, our refinery through maritime with the Lobito Ocean Terminal, where we have so far the Lobito Railway. We will use the wagons of the railway system. We can also use the feeding of trucks, tanks for delivering all the oil products. So heavy shippings, we will install a monopoia in deep water, where we really make the transport of the products and ships. Due to the land of the refinery, we're talking about 4,000 hectares. We have enough space for future investments and many other upgrade for the refinery. So far, we have presented a future petrochemical plant. We have enough space to implement this kind of the project within the space of Lobito Refinery. So it will really bring synergy to the project. So we also see schedule the program of the implementations. We have so far defined in September 2020, we have concluded economic feasibility studies. We went for another upgrade because the studies was a little bit out of date. We conducted in 2020, but it takes into consideration the implications of a COVID pandemic in certain oil and gas and refining. So we have concluded this study in September, but this study will be available for assessment of the potential or the future investors and those ones that are interested to participate in this project. We are in the process of studies of many configurations of the refineries, where we consider that we'll conduct another update on the study that we have conducted previously in terms of configuration. It will take in account the future partners, where are their considerations that we take to the table, the kind of configuration of the refinery. So then we have this space of the
needs that will be implemented, and we also have the tender that will be launched today, that will take us to, as you can see, until December 2021, and the steps that we need to take in terms of negotiations, preparation of feeding process and construction. And then we are in place or in conditions to start the process of the refinery together with our partners. With this information, I have realized the part of the presentation of the Lobito Refinery. Now I ask you to come to the stage. Thank you, Engineer Gilmario Correa, the responsible of the Lobito Refinery. He has submitted some specific details of what is the composition, what has been done so far. And because we are here today for the launching of this public tender at this refinery, this is some more details for this public tender. And now I invite the Director of Management and Strategy for Senegal, Dr. Lisboa, to have some detailed presentation of what is the public process of the Lobito Refinery. Your attention. Good morning. Thank you, Selma. Thank you, Mario. Therefore, this was a great presentation. Now we could have an overview of the refinery project of Lobito Refinery. In terms of objectives, this tender is designed to be international tender, a tender that will counting with foreigner companies together with national and foreign companies that are interested in investing in Lobito Refinery. So we have a node of reference node in this moment. This will be a tender only to choose the shareholders that will, together with Senegal, that will be part of this project of refinery. As mentioned earlier, this is a project where the refinery will have a processing capacity of until 200,000 barrels per day. Some eligibility criteria for the tender. So, just to say that we expect the potential investors some individual proposals, but also we are open to have some consult proposals. One important note here, and as a starting point, we need to have a due diligence process in place. So therefore, at the start of this project, when the manifest expression of interest, to have a process of due diligence, a complete due diligence process, and this includes the financial capacity of the future of investor. So we are going to test. We're going to test the technical capacity and the history where the companies have invested so far in terms of similar projects and the value for each project. When we are talking about financial capacity, we are detailing as we go along the presentation, but now we are talking about possible banking references of financial institutions, but we also the possibility of companies have its own share capital, so that prove that they can invest in this refinery. In terms of strategy, implementation strategy, we talked a little bit about the capacity of the refinery in regards to the raw material. Just to say that at the first phase, we're talking about crude. We're leaving it open with some references that, according to the studies that have been done by Senegal, we can have some potential to more lighter crudes. But this tender, the appraisal of our investors will help us to define this in terms of products. Refining products, we will have to produce petrol, fuel oil, gasoline, and just looking at additional production of petrol and fuel, taking account the internal market. The market itself, and I believe that the future potential investors will understand that the target market will be the local market. So we want to reduce our expenditures in terms of refining products, to process in order to meet the needs of the local market, and then the exceeding that we can export is the exceed to neighbor regions. Standard quality. This is something that we identified by itself. So we would like to work with the quality standards, refine the quality standards in terms of petroleum and fuel with 85. This is a reference that we take, and also the fuel oil IMO. You might have spoke about a little bit about the petrochemical industry, and there is space for to do in the field, and this can be considered at the throughout this presentation. We can see some aspects of the petrochemical industry. In terms of lifespan of the project, we are talking about approximately 10 years, 30 years. The structure of the technical proposal, what to expect from the technical proposal to be prepared by the investors. So we'd like to see a projection, and there is engineer, bidding, construction of the project itself. As we can see, Senegal has made some advancements in, but it's also important for us to listen our partners. Not least and least important is the capacity of vessels. This refinery is important for us to calculate from the very beginning the investment for the refiner. This investment will actually dictate a set of situations that will help us to, in a certain way, to analyze the project itself. In terms of scheduling, we have opened a possibility where we could have a forward project, or in terms of projects to have a two-phase project, a distinct two-phase project. Now, following a little bit at what we expect in terms of technical proposals, it is important for us to feel and have this comfort from the investors in terms of strategic vision and the management way, and in terms of the refinery itself, operational maintenance of the refinery itself, and all the other conformities that we need to associate to this strategy management process. We've also spoke about initial investment for the refinery. We know that the OPEX is important, and the operation costs to run it is crucial to run the refinery, and we also want to see this initiative. In the previous presentation, we saw some initiatives made by Senegal. As you could see, this project is being reclassified as a national importance project. Senegal cannot be stopped. Senegal has made some initiatives, but please, we are open to listen from the investors that strategy that you have in regards to the feedstock. So we will, and we hope to see in your proposals, as well as the yields associated to the refined products. Less important to this evaluation. We will we'll have some risk identification. So Senegal has identified some, but we want to listen from the investors. What are the risks? What are the financial risks? If it's financing, what are the operational risks? So we want to hear from you. What are the risks associated, and what can be seen associated to the project? More risks and mitigation. How can we, in a certain, could overcome those risks? There is a social component in this project, so therefore we within the criteria, within each investor criteria, to receive proposals associated to social development whether from Benguela province, municipality of Lobito, or whether to a national level. Now, a very simple detail, more specific detail, let's say, from the financing structure. So we expect from those proposals, as I said, as we said, sorry, earlier, to receive funds. This is a comfort letter from financial institutions. For instance, this is a little bit associated to the modality of financing modality. If it's after, or if it is before, we will see these financial modalities. So if there's any proof of the own capital of the company that is available to for this investment. So talking about financial structure, well, we want to be a little bit more specific and detailed. We want to see what is the financial structure. So we don't want to be just for the submission of a comfort letter. So what are the planning in terms of financial structure to be applied or implemented within the project? What is the schedule of activities schedule? And here it is important to know what are the guarantees, necessary guarantees and requirements of the lender for this financing. Well, we hope that those extractions have US dollars evaluation. So if it's a currency that is not dollars, that and a currency that we can have some calculation that can be a conversion in dollars. Well, we believe, and Mario has also mentioned this earlier, Senegal has made some work, Senegal has made some feasibility studies, Senegal has made some, and has some ideas of structure, coastal structure, where we can go, we have a cohesive program. We want to see from you what is the study of Lobito Refinery, so a business instruction for what is a business instruction that investors come here for this investment. This business model, we hope that will be a detailed one, so that we can have a visibility of cash flow visibility. So throughout the project, and then we can actually calculate and hear from you the economic results associated to this business model. Essentially, the internal tax of the project itself, the value of the project, and also the payback of the project. So we want to know, and now we are going to do some references, as you said, and this is very important, CAPEX for this project. So therefore, we want investors, we want proposals, but we also want something that is feasible. So those calculations, as the way they should be presented in the proposal, they can be submitted within the view of the share part of the society, that the company, the share that the company is actually able to invest, let's say. So spoke about a little bit about the financing structure. We have seen what has been happening to financial structures at the time they actually accept those financing. So we want to mention that as a restriction that Senegal is expects to receive financial structures associated as a way of financing project. What I want to say is the estimated cash flow, they need to be sufficient as a guarantee for those investments. You can have some corporate guarantees, and this is normal, but I leave a note here, but this is not, it's not a, for Senegal, it's not expecting, Senegal is not expecting this for this project. In terms of documentation, we have a list of some documentation that we expect to obtain at the time of the expression of interest for notifications from the company, from the corporation. It's important for us to see the policy and the philosophy of the company. Any litigation registrations, if you have, if the past and some future and present, it is important to do during the or throughout the diligence process. We have this information from investors, and this will be good for our partners or future partners to indicate these financial aspects. Well, we also spoke about that we want to wait to receive from investors something like history from the company that gives us an indication of the projects that the company are involved, because most of the time we are going to have some parallelism with the KFSR that is essential. It is something that Senegal takes as essential for our Senegal projects, and also we want to see KFSR positions in terms of the history of the company and those investments. So we want to expect to see the last reports of the last 3 years in terms of the reporting accounts or any associated report accounts or either CFT. Well, we have made some additional note to the process due diligence. Followed. We have to take 10 seconds and 20 seconds to talk about the full sources. So we said that we expect any individual or as the contract proposals, we need to have an agreement that can be done through a partner agreement or through a MOU, but we need to see a solid document that represents the consortium, a joint venture, I must say, that is being running for those tenders. And not only, but in those consortiums, we need to see the identification of who are within those consortiums, or the representatives, or 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 companies. It doesn't matter which one would be the representative of this consortium together. The entities or Senegal, it is essential for us to have this education, and we also expect to see those agreements between the companies, and also the responsibility, accountability of each company in those consortiums. So it is very important. We have in our webpage, we have a file called QIP. So very important. So we also ask each company to fill those forms. This is not more than to have this sensitivity to have that. If we have a consortium, so for us to know what we are dealing with, this is not a momentum decision, but this is for the public tender, so that we can have a stability throughout the period.
Well, in identifying the representation of the companies, and this will be done through a document issued by the board of directors of the company, or identify someone who has been appointed to respond by the company outside Angola. They have to follow the normal procedures by going to Angola embassy, or by a power of attorney to someone who's going to be representing the company. Here you have an illustration of various laws. We're not going to get into details, but this is just to say that the bid will be governed by the private investment law. It's important for you to be familiarized with, but there is a number of presidential decrees, executive decrees, all of them associated to the refinery business, particularly to the Lobito Refinery. We have some legislations associated to the areas, associated to the project, land reserve. So we have a list. These documents will be available as from today. These will be made available on our web page for consultation. It's also, one must also emphasize that nowadays, whenever we start with a project, we immediately ask what are the incentives. Well, there are some incentives, and here I would like just to mention some on the ones applicable to Lobito Refinery, some exemptions, tax exemptions defined. We have some of them below, but let me just say something. And this has been the experience we have had in the previous projects. No, we must make sure that we must have an optimization of the capex, a correct estimate of future investments. So with this, we, Sonangol and us, although Sonangol is already conducted the feasibility studies with McKinsey and Company, we are still waiting for these from our investors and then we are going to debate and analyze this. And only afterwards, we'll talk about the additional incentives. We need to look at first the project feasibility, and if the project is not profitable, then we'll analyze its exception component within the fiscal regime. And we have proof of that. The Angolan government has been profoundly involved in projects of such nature in Angola, so as to provide them with exemptions. Well, now we'll talk about the timelines for the public bid or public tender. We have, as it was announced already, we have the tender today, which starts today. We'll have, as from today, and one I must emphasize, we'll have 4 months from now for companies to prepare themselves, and as they feel comfortable, they will be able to subscribe and express their interest to invest at Lobito Refinery. This period of 4 months is also a period that we are also considering for proposals to be prepared. We have a timeline of 14th of October of 2021. that will be the deadline where proposals are supposed to be submitted. During this period, and here I'm talking about not just the participants here in Lobito, but I'm talking about all participants who are watching us virtually. In case there is a need, Sonangol is ready on the 9th of August. Senegal will travel to Dubai and will then facilitate the approach or the interaction with other companies who might be interested in investing in Lobito Refinery. All you have to do is to express your interest within the scheduling, our programming. Then we are going to travel to Dubai and facilitate this process so as to have a better interaction, a better understanding of the project by the various investors. We have also, you can also visit our site. Some companies have, you can also visit our site. Some companies have already visited the site. So we are ready to accompany you to the site based on your request, upon your request. Once again, and we are talking about 4 months. We know that in these processes, the time goes really fast. So our appeal is that companies start thinking of your proposals, and you should have a milestone. A milestone or a deadline will be the 14th of October. 14th of October for the deadline of submission of our proposals. So please do your homework, and we will obviously be able to provide you any support if needed. So, and let me tell you what will happen after the 14th. We haven't commented at the beginning, but one of the principles of this tender is that it is done in a transparent manner, and that it creates some kind of competition, fair competition, and that at the end of the day, all companies are included in the process and are happy with the process. As for the proposals, these are to be submitted in hard copies, all of them are to be, and they should be addressed to the chairman of the board of directors of Sonangol. They should be well sealed and stamped. They should be sealed. Sorry, they should all be sealed. The chairman of the board of directors or any member of the board of directors shall not open the proposals. There's actually an evaluation committee which has already been established, or which is being established, where we have the representation from a vast number of specialized directorates within the Sonangol group. We have the directorate of portfolio strategic management, which will coordinate this committee, and they will have representatives from the compliance department, legal department, and our technical department from the petrochemical and refinery business, finances department, TFSA, and other directorates. So all these sealed proposals will be submitted before this committee, which on the very following day will promote a public act of opening these proposals. And these will be the very same committee who shall analyze the proposals and then make recommendations After these evaluations have been made, this recommendation will then be submitted before the board of directors. And then the board of directors will make the final recommendations to the Ministry of Petroleum and Gas, Mineral Resources and Petroleum Gas. We also have some other deadlines or timelines that are part of the whole process, which I've already referred to. The public act. We would like to have the presence in Angola of companies. We'd like to have the participation of the companies who are going to submit the proposals to witness this process of opening the recommendations. But please, for those of you who are not going to be part of this event, please submit your proposals, because in this act we can also you can also witness such event through digital or virtual platforms. Well, we have already spoken a little bit about some of the instruments, some of the tools, the initial aspects of the process. And let me just emphasize, all this information being presented here, both the technical information of the project as well as the what we call the rules of procedures or terms of reference, as well as a detailed document in the Word format on these rules. These will be made available at Sonangol's website for additional consultation. And the tender procedure will also be available at Sonangol's webpage. And there's a need to sign an NDA with Sonangol so as to start all these public tender process. Another important aspect one must mention, we have some contact points. Each has a corporate email, but no one will receive an email, and nobody is authorized to reply an email from companies. We have actually created a specific email to provide further clarifications. The team from the multidisciplinary team committee will then handle these emails. No one will issue an individual opinion. This will actually be a collective opinion, which will be recorded in our reports on a weekly basis. Just as an example. Ladies and gentlemen, I shall now also welcome not only Benguela, but also our virtual participants. Welcome you all for the Lobito Refinery project. We need this investment. I repeat, this is an investment. And let me quote the minister. This is an investment of national importance. End quote. All of us are supposed to participate in it. Investors, please come to Sonangol. We believe that there is enough space. Today, we have a lot more knowledge, detailed knowledge that can actually be shared with you so as to eliminate or even mitigate any possible doubts or questions with respect to this project. I've actually made this presentation many times, but I've seen Jomar presenting the current status of the Lobito Refinery. And by just watching his presentation, I would also want to invest if I had the possibility. But once again, welcome. And once again, thank you for your attention. And please make use of our services so as to facilitate your submissions. Thank you.
Muito obrigada.
Thank you.
Foi então o diretor
He's
de estratégia e gestão
the
do portfólio da Sonangol.
Portfolio Management and Strategy
Nos fez aqui a
Chief
apresentação
Helder Nunes Lisboa, who just presented the rules of the public tender for the investment of the Lobito Refinery that has been launched today. One of the advantages on these refinery is the production of local refined products, specifically for the Benguela, Lobito, which will dynamize the petrochemical industry. So in order to get more details on how these will leverage this industry, given its raw materials, I will now call to this podium Engineer Faustino, who's going to give us more details on petrochemical. Thank you, Selma. Petrochemistry. The next slides, I will talk about the promotion of the petrochemical business in Sonangol. As the agenda proposal, I bring to you a context, a market context analysis, and at the end, the formulation of the strategy. In order to achieve, to fulfill the guidelines of the government of Angola, which consists in implementing an industrial zone, Sonangol has presented a comprehensive vision of opportunities and valuing and monetizing available gas in Angola. And the objective incorporates contributing in the replacement of exports and imports and promoting national products by ensuring self-sufficiency of petrochemical products. Simultaneously, reduce the import of those products to about 20%, to about 20%. It also aims at developing a more robust national industry with the existence of new refineries, as well as to promote the petrochemical business in Angola. The value chain may be structured with the first and second generation products. And obviously, it will be relevant to know that by transforming these products, they can be generated from gas and oil or petroleum. However, our business uses, Angola uses first and second generation products, which results as PVC products, detergents, cleaning products, amongst others. Let me just remind you that all these raw materials is imported. Having said so, the establishment of a petrochemical industry in the national territory will guarantee a project feasibility and will clearly sustain this business in Angola. Based on some preliminary analysis, it's estimated that the resources in the lower Congo basin, they will reach an estimated amount of 2.2 TFS of natural gas. And I must say that this has motivated us to believe that the natural gas may also be utilized as a raw material to leverage the petrochemical industry. Having said so, we believe that the derivatives, gas derivatives, will provide us a better cost condition. At the same time, it will ensure a better control of the environmental impact. We are also counting on the discovery resources in the Kwanzaa Basin, and by emphasizing, obviously, what the blocks 19, 20, 21, and 24. And let me just emphasize that transformation of such resources into reserves in a durability of 5 years is fundamental in order to have a vision on monetizing the existing volume of gas. Now, based on already potential projects and known to Sonangol, let me also emphasize the first and second generation projects of ammonia and fertilizers products. In terms of capacity or need of gas, we have estimated 1.5 TFS for ammonia plant, whose processing capacity can reach up to 4,000 tons per day. This project may be implemented with a durability of from 4 to 6 years. Now, for the fertilizing plant, the need of gas will vary to 0.73 TFS of gas, natural gas, and this could meet the demands of the agriculture sector. And it's also expected that its implementation will take a period of 4 to 6 years. One must also emphasize that the implementation of a petrochemical industry, we should take into consideration the aggregated value. And for that, we should consider some aspects, such as the existence of airports and ports in its surrounding, access to road infrastructures, well accessible road infrastructures, the possibility of reaching the source of raw materials, as well as other basic conditions such as water and power, hospitals, etc. With the aim of measuring the consumption of products in Angola, I present to you on this slide the amount of $707 million disbursed by the Angolan government in 2019 for the import of products such as fertilizers, plastic bags, and polyester products. This is just to say that the creation of a petrochemical industry in the national territory will clearly significantly reduce the import of these products. And the obvious question is, what should be the strategy in order to promote petrochemical business? And the answer is, the strategy will be based on 4 components. First, namely, partnership with selective investments. That is, to establish partnership with companies with a high know-how on petrochemical business and financial capacity. And we should also look at the profitability of the capital invested. And we should also be able to prioritize the monetizing projects of the available natural gas, as well as to ensure the supply of raw material as a quality product in the consumption of the national industry. We were bold and we present to you some initiatives, and let me just mention some. And there are some stages in the petrochemical internships for petrochemical industry for newly graduated students, and we should be able to sign a memorandum of understanding with academia so as to make sure these available resources are utilized together with ANPG and the operators. Analyze the fiscal conditions so as to expedite these projects, as well as to have a feasible site to implement petrochemical industry, as well as to scale up our internal and external products. More than words, illustrative examples of the 3Ps, products coming from the petrochemical. I believe that all of you in this room have received a kit that contains a bag from the petrochemical. And within that bag, we have a paint, a pen from paint coming from the petrochemical, and some other items that are made out of plastic coming out of the petrochemical. Thank you for your attention.
Muito obrigada, engenheira.
Thank you, Engineer Joyce, who has exhaustively and in a very creative manner has explained the importance of the 2Ps, production from the petrochemical industry. Thank you. I'd like to reiterate and wish you a good afternoon to all of you accompany us, especially our participants accompany us virtually. And we have about 1,100 participants following us at a national level, and some other following us outside the country. And you surely have questions to be answered on this Lobito Refinery, and we shall have the opportunity to answer them. And the Administrator Joaquin Fernandez will be able to answer these questions. The Lobito Refinery Coordinator and the Strategic and Portfolio Management Department Head, Nunes Lisboa, will be able to answer your questions. And the press is also expected to ask questions. You can place your questions in an orderly manner. So for those of you who would like to ask questions, please make sure you raise your hands. And when our protocol team comes near you, please identify yourself. Just make sure you mention your name, the organization you represent, and then ask your question. The very same thing applies to the press. And we're also taking questions being asked virtually or online. Please, we're just waiting for your questions. Please do not be shy. The presentations were really clear. Are there questions? Are there any questions?
Eu vou então apresentar, por enquanto, as questões que foram colocadas online.
Again, I will now present the questions raised online. Mr. Cristiano would like to know how many companies are now submitting their, to say that we do not have yet companies submitting their proposals. Mr. Seeley has provided his comment, say that this business environment, and hope that the strategic measures should be well followed up in order to have their well implementation. We are still available for other questions. Those are now in this audience. Journalists, if you have questions, we have now a raised hand. Thank you very much. From Angola Industry Association, Jose Severino, I have three questions. Some investments so far implemented, will all the capital associated to the project or some other works like the road project will be a public investment? So you may go on. We will really jot down all the three questions, then we will answer them. However, until the submission of the final proposal, we will have chance to ask questions on some pertinent questions, and maybe the commission or the committee will give answers. So we still have space for more questions, for individual and collective answers. On October date, we have a commitment timing from the organization to present of the opening of the proposals. Is there any timing for that? Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Jose Severino, representative of Angola Industrial Association. Now we'll hand over the floor to the presenters to start answering the question. Thank you, Mr. Jose Severino. Regarding to the first questions, all the investment carried out so far for Lobito Refinery project, which is considered the past project, will not be considered as a part of the new Lobito Refinery project. So we are now speaking about the new project, which will take advantages of the existing infrastructures. However, these infrastructures in the past were considered as project for the public investment. For example, the water treatment and supplying from Bio River. So the question from the constructions process, indeed, will have chance for questions, and this question will be answered for the representative of the committee that will be comprised. And once again, I reaffirm, will not be accepted opinions or individual opinions from Sunango in order to avoid having a comment from this working group. However, regarding to the opening of the proposals, those will be carried out the following day after the conclusion of the deadline. The deadline will be October 14. We really envisage the opening of these proposals on the following day. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, administrators. We are available for other questions. Is there any journalist or any other individual from press that would like come up with a question? My name is Tino Cordeiro. I'd like to know how will be carried out the transfer of the board, and what is the preventive measure in case of oil spill? Please, could you just identify your media organization? He's from Angola, Angola News Agency. So while this is a technical question, I will hand over this question to Engineer Mato. So please, microphone. So a very important element regarding to delivering of products out of the refineries. We'll do it in two ways. As I mentioned, we have the Lobito Ocean Terminal is closed, which has been doing this job and handing over the products in the interior of the country, overseas, and we do it through trucks, and they have also capacity to do it through railways. One of part of the products will be delivered through Lobito Ocean Terminal, but most of the products will be carried out on the Lobito Ocean Terminal, which is so far in a very final phase of its executions. So we'll have the cargo and cargo of the products, as well as loading the product for transport for other part of the countries. We also have a sea line and a monopoly through 2 kilometers from Restinga, deep water, and it will really accommodate the big ships, which will really have access to the Lobito Bay. However, they will really do the loading and unloading of the cargoes on the high sea. So all these elements can be really adjusted conform to the business strategies that will be implemented with our own partners. In case of oil spill, the petrochemical industry, refinery and oil and gas has norms that they have to take in account in case of this kind of incidents. So this refinery will have all these elements for sea oil spill. We have many different systems that will be launched to mitigate this kind of incident. So this norm will be part of this project. Just to clarify that the industry of oil and gas regarding to the oil spill preventions, I will call the director of SSA from Senegal, Mr. Luis, if you possible, just come and give more details on the environmental protections where the industry of refining and petrochemical that will put in place, because this is a very pertinent element. So those that do not understand about environmental protections. Luis, please, could you have the floor? Just come up with some details. What are the measures to mitigate the oil spill on the sea? Thank you, Mr. Administrator. Regarding Engineer Guiomar has mentioned, we follow a set of norms that are previously established. Even the Angolan legislation has got a group of set that should be followed by the industry based to this element. And from time to time, we are assessed in fulfilling the established legislations. We have technical and human measures and resources to guarantee that such a kind of situations will be mitigated. Essentially, we work more on the prevention, as I mentioned, creating the technical measures to avoid such an incident. If it comes to happen, we have trained teams to deal with the oil spill. I will not come with the technical aspect, but essentially is the way that how the industry is organized to mitigate the environmental risks. Thank you very much. We have now questions online, but I will give space for online questions. Mr. Celestino Jimbo is asking, what is the horizons of the project for the first and second phase? Mr. Gabriel Cahala is asking when it is going to start the functioning of Lobito Refinery project. Mr. Manuel Camalata is asking what is the length of the working constructions and what is the date of starting the operations. Mr. Miguel Philip is asking what are the minimal requirements or the obligation imposed by the state in order to contract and set up the national manpower. Now give the hand over the floor to the speakers. Has well understood, the first question has to do with the design of the project. This is a public tender to present the proposal of construction of a new refinery. We do not limitate in terms of design. Our limitation is in terms of the processing capacity. Is a refinery that will be processing until 200,000 barrels per day, will be done in phase or in two phases. It will depend on the visions of the candidates. So in our perspective, so the starting of this project according to the proposals of the contractors or candidates will be from their initiative, considering, however, the indicated aspect by the GAVP director we have has element to sign of associated signature until February 2022, and we may also, it will really obey the clarification during the negotiating phase according to the proposals of the different participants. We will start with the preliminary activities still in the end of 2022, depending of the proposal to have the first phase between 2023-2024 or in one phase around 2026. But it is conditioned to the proposal that we received from the participants. So the time of the execution of the work for a refinery of these calendars, we go around 4 to 4 years. It will depend on the type of refinery that will be proposed. The other aspect that were mentioned regarding the obligations on the training, the DGP has presented some norms. So now I'll hand over the word to the VIP. Very good morning once again, and thank you for the question. It is a very important question. I'd like to mention on the presentation that were done by the governor of Bengala province. This project will, however, within the framework of the legal framework and the contract on contracting local company, will try to find in first phase to be served or will be served to the local service providers in order to tackle the needs of the project. However, it is normal to be carried out throughout the many projects that take place in Angola, and we believe that the Lobito refinery project or contracting the local company will not um, run away the rule. Thank you very much. So now I'd like to hand over the floor to members of the audience just to come with the last uh, phase of the questions, or the last block of questions. My name is Candido Mendes. I'm a journalist from Bloomberg. I had 3 questions. Question number 1: why did it take a long time of redefining the project of the Lobito project since 2016? So I'd like to also know, now will be the time. The other is classified, so the Luanda will be 4. I believe that the need of fuel consumptions will overcome the domestic consumptions. What will be done with the excedent, considering the productions of crude oil is declining? I believe that the bidding of new blocks, oil fields, is not a risk at certain time. With all refineries working, they will not have a capacity of production in order to feed the full refinery. If you believe that, how it will be sorted out if the refinery will be import crude in order to operate? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Is there any other panel member has got a microphone for a question? Thank you very much. My name is João Ram. I am a representative of an oil company. The first question is regarding to the crude or raw material. During the presentation, where mentioned that we the financier, we should present a proposal utilizing the national crude, medium and light crude, as well as present proposals with the possibility of processing crudes coming overseas. Regarding to the national crude, I'd like to know, after or during the contact that we will establish, will be displayed the characteristics of the crude, or the time, the lifespan of this crude, because it is fundamental to define the optimal quality, the flexibility of the refinery, and the ambit of the development of managing the refinery. I'd like also to know if we have to present only one configuration or 2 or 3 configuration. What I mean, if do I have to present in one phase, 2 or 3 phases, or according to the configuration will be a refinery of a deep conversion? The other question has to do with the strategy of the business itself. So the products will be produced once, will be directed to the local market in first instance. How will be defined the business model for the investors should see safeguarded the repatriation of their incomes? So I'd like to now hand over the floor to another representative. Mr. Martins from Jornal Mercado. I'd like to know what are the fiscal incentives that will be delivered to the investors, or will be similar to those that were delivered to investors from Cabinda Refinery. On the other hand, I'd like also to know how much Angola will save after the building of the refiners that is underway in terms of funds. We have one more question. João Marcos, Voz da América, or I'd like just to go on with the questions of my colleague. So the tax incentives from the Benguela refiners, taking in account why the Lobito refiners and the Cabinda refiners, while they are in the same axles, how do you justify the discrepancy? We have some incentives for Cabinda refiners as never seen. Could you just tell the difference between? To see the society structures, so the Angolan state has the biggest shareholder. One more question. Now I will ask members of the protocol to come to hear His Excellency Minister. I'd like to take the floor.
Thank you. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen, that they are responsible for the answers. I'd like to give some inputs for the questions that have been asked. Okay, sorry, in relation to the subsidiaries, sorry, there was not mentioned here what the some subsidies. So there are some subsidies that are established in the law. If the promoter wants some more subsidies, they have to request. Now, we should not be afraid to provide subsidies to projects that are necessary to the country. We should not be afraid. And Cabinda is a pioneer case. We know that the specific situation of Cabinda, just to give an example, a major part of the work that's been done in Lobito was not done in Cabinda at the level of the mining and sea work and the ground, the field, and all the specificities of Cabinda. One specific example, the equipment that will come from abroad will go to Ponta Negra, Ponte Noire, and then from Ponte Noire to Cabinda. So the time, construction time, so we have provided a very short time for construction, and also the context for the performance of those works. So it was not the same as we had for Lobito. So the starting point is not the same. So therefore, will have different ways of, if the promoters or investors we ask within the investment law, the government is also analyzed in a different way. So the subsidies are different, but also, ladies and gentlemen, it is necessary to study the history of refining in other countries. Just to say that they have exaggerating subsidies. No, it's not correct to say. I know there are some opinions that have came out and they interpreted it incorrectly the text. But like the journalist that should have to research and to study how the refining has come in Singapore, what siderurgical industry has come in other countries, and also in relation to Bloomberg. We should not be afraid. One day, we could not have enough food to feed our refineries. Singapore does not have oil. It is one of the major hubs, refining hubs of petrochemical crude oil. They do not have oil. South Africa, they do not have oil. So what is the capacity of refining capacity in South Africa? Yeah. Another country without access to the sea, they have a refinery and do not have oil. So you see, Korea, this is a big issue within this same industry. They do not have iron. So sometimes it's not having this kind of resources that make this country as a potential. But this is a problem in Africa. We have like raw materials, but we cannot transform this raw material. So therefore, we should not think this very strict, limited way. We should look ahead. We have oil today, to consume oil, and we cannot have capacity to refine the oil. But the world is not going to finish today, so ladies and gentlemen. And also the energy transition cannot be the same in most developing countries and less developing countries, and also in our country. It will take more time here in Angola, but ladies and gentlemen, please not accept that people come here to impose situation. We need to be the owners of our destination. We need to start thinking ahead. We need to be innovative now and not to accepting the third parties agenda. We need to use the blessings that the people have gave us to have mineral resources and other resources, and not thinking in economy based in this transformation process. Therefore, we have submitted here that the petrochemical opportunities for the first to second generation petrochemical. It's not only through the gas, but the gas itself it has petrochemical. Oil is not only for fuel, but also for petrochemical. Therefore, we need to be used, and we're going to be used. The country has iron resources. It doesn't process oil. Our country
petróleo precisa de produtos provenientes da barite e da bentonite para fazer a perfuração de petróleo, possui e importa.
The country has the resources to produce calcareum to phosphate, and we import everything that is fertilizer. So we need to be used. We not to be afraid. Not to be afraid of having the additional capacity. There was another question from Bloomberg. We need, yeah. Okay. So if we are afraid, if we have a neighbor with more than 80,000 million people, with a huge capacity in the mining center that is benefiting from our product, unfunctional products. And we are afraid to have this additional oil capacity in our country. Why? Well, we have signed a memorandum of understanding with Zambia to study the viability of oil to Zambia. And should we be afraid of additional capacity? No. I don't think so. I don't think we should be afraid. And people will tell us that maybe in 10 years, our local capacity cannot be tripled or will increase exponentially. Now, what is the industry development in our country? It's small, and we expect that industrial capacity and then the consumption will be increasing. Should not be afraid, ladies and gentlemen. There is no need to be afraid of to be the capacity that today seems to be in itself.
Na refinaria, tanto de Cabinda como do Soio,
refiner, whether in Soyo or Cabinda, the state is not, or the government is not the majority. So the government has those two refineries. It has 10% of those refineries. For Lobito, Sanangol strategy is to have 30% of the shares, and therefore there is no intention for Senegal to be the majority or to be the major shareholder. And we know that is the fundamental, the basis of the market economy. Those are the fundamentals for the economy to last. This is what we intend. Thank you very much. Now we can be able to answer the remaining questions. Thank you very much, the Minister, for your clarification. Now I pass the floor to the panel for they can proceed answering to the remaining questions. The Minister, thank you very much for your subsidies. I think that we definitely know much more answers to give, but also to mention something in relation to the configuration and the setting up of some, as I said earlier, the setting up will depend on the components, also the phases. One of the aspects that we are looking for is to a refinery should be of a highest performance. This could be at the very first stage, but then at the end, then it needs to be for the highest performance. But we need to make the primary and the secondary products, they need to be so, and I think that all the questions that have been submitted by or for the Minister have covered all the remaining questions. Thank you very much. Thank you all that been here face to face and virtually have made those questions, and I'll take the opportunity to advise you that if you need some more additional clarification, or we can access a website of the tender, public www. Refinaria do Lobito.co.ro, that is will be available from today, and now they can be assigned to a field that you can actually make questions. So our activity is coming to the end, and I'd like to thank you to the attenders, your attendance, and I'd like you to remain seated for the panel that gave answers. Thank you very much to join the stage. The people that have made those questions, thank you for your interest, and also reiterate that we continue to be available through our channels. Like that, you should not leave the room because taking account our safety rules. So the exit will be made step by step from the first row to the second row, and then I'd like, in particularly the press, to wait here at the room. We have some material for you. Now I pass the floor to Mr. Joaquim Fernandes, is the board, the chairman of the come and make the final remarks for the public tender of Lobito Refinary. Thank you. Excellence, Governor of Bengala, Municipal Director of Bengala, Excellence of the Director of the Oil and the Gas, representatives of Bengala, Secretary of State, distinguished investors, dear guests. On behalf of the chairman of Senegal and also to the city of Senegal, I'm here to thank you for your presence, and also to increase the investors to come with those proposals, so we can have the refinery Lobito as a reality. So this refinery, besides we can develop a strategic plan of the country, will also be the sustainability of for the transition or energetic transition. So to help us to save significant quantities for the government in terms of derivatives of oil, and also will allow us to have some investments in terms of gas and oil, but also to implement new projects, energy projects. Now, the energy transition is one of the main factors that will start from today in our Senegal strategy, and also for the government. Another aspect I'd like to advise you um, that we are working for the implementation of research and development hub that will be located in Kwanzaa Soul, specifically in Sombas. And then one of the aspects of this hub is to be dedicated to research of hydrogen for the implementation for the energy world. To petrochemical, we also have submitted some of the general aspects that for the ending of this project, and in due time we will come to the non-public tender for the proposals of the achievement of this project. I'm not going further. Without further delay, we have made some remarks, but other clarifications can be done through to the working group. Just to thank you all the investors, and also to thank you the working team, so that Senegal as a public entity and the representative of the government in this industry successfully according to the reorganization plans. Thank you very much to all of you.